coffee, and football. This is Drive Time Football by Powder Blue Sports. This is my special order. I specially ordered these from John Turnbull at Powder Blue Sports. I had him make the 1982 six teams from the 1982 season that are my best friends, my closest friends growing up, their favorite teams. So our first Status Pro football game was the strike shortened 82 set, and we played that religiously. We played that more than any tabletop game outside of Pay Dirt, the 80, I think the 1980 or 83 version of Pay Dirt. But Status Pro was it. Once we discovered Status Pro football, that is what we did, and we happened to have 82 first, so we played 82 a lot. We ended up getting 83, 84, and 85, but we played more 82 than we played anything. And so all of my closest friends have a favorite team, and that's what we did. We would play head to head. We would round robin. Once in a while, somebody would say, "I want to go ahead and try the Green Bay Packers" or whatever, but they always felt, like they were behind the eight ball if they weren't playing their favorite team, I think. So anyway, I wanted to be able to enjoy the 82 teams again, and of course under the idea that I was enjoying these with my friends. So I asked John to make the teams, but name the head coach my best friends and their favorite team. So we got Jeff and the Dolphins of 82. We got Ronnie and his Cowboys, myself and my Raiders. And these are all, Ron is still a Cowboys fan, was a Mavericks fan. Jeff is a Miami and a Utah Jazz fan. Jeff loves the Cincinnati Reds. Jeff's a huge baseball fan. Of all of us, he's the biggest baseball fan. Still, at 55, plays in adult league baseball. Ronnie loves sports, period. Man, I think Ronnie in his 50s is still playing volleyball in his hometown. They can play volleyball year-round. So I'm, of course, a diehard football fan. I love my Oakland A's, my Oakland Raiders, and my 76ers. But there's my Raiders. And then Scott, he loved the Bears and the Redskins. He played the Redskins the most during this period because, of course, the Redskins were also really good, so he wanted to enjoy his Redskins. Freddie, Jeff and Freddie and I are the oldest of the bunch as far as going back to our diapers. I mean, we were, and Freddie and I were inseparable for years. He is a huge Broncos fan, Nuggets fan. Unfortunately, I got to give him credit, man. Despite how bad the Broncos were in that 82 set, boy, he played them, and he just took a beating because he loves his Broncos. Freddie's one of the few. There's no fair weather in Freddie. If we suck, so be it, And then, of course, John, to round out the set, said I'd put in a couple of extra teams. So he added Cleveland without a coach, which is cool. And he added New England as himself as the coach, which was very nice. So I've got 8 teams to round out this little pool. And John is coaching the Pats. That is so cool. And, of course, because Scott was a huge Chicago and Washington fan, I wanted the Bears in here as well. And Scott's little brother, when he played with us, was generally the Bears or the Redskins. I don't know if that's because he and Scott were similar in their tastes, but he very often played the Bears. Eric would play the Bears. So I had Scott's little brother, who didn't play with us much, but when he did, he generally played the Redskins or the Bears. I put Eric in here as well, so Eric is the Bears. And why these people? Well, because they all lived on the cul-de-sac with us. We all spent many years together playing street football, playing actual junior high football on the teams together. We played pickup basketball. We were out till the dark, and then we'd go inside and play tabletop games together. There were about 6 of us on that cul-de-sac. And when you grow up on a cul-de-sac like that together, and you walk to school every morning, and you walk home every night, and then you play football in the street until it's dark, and then you go in and you play Status Pro until bedtime, you get close knit with these guys. And my house was the hub, and so the door was always unlocked, and there was always 6 people at my house, me and 4 friends, and the kitchen was open to these cats, so they could come in, go upstairs, they could get some juice, they could grab a sandwich, they could come downstairs, and we start playing Pay Dirt or something. So my parents, it was just an open house. It was wide open, and there was somebody coming or going or staying there or whatever. So, I mean, Ron actually lived with us for a while. When his parents moved, he lived with us for a little while, which was cool. So Ronnie, can't remember how long. I think he was with us maybe a year. Lived with us for about a year. So we were. My parents were very. It was just our house. Our food was their food. Our house was their house, so to speak, in many ways. So close were we that Jeff, when my parents retired and moved, Jeff, who lived 2 doors down, bought my childhood home and raised his family in my childhood home. So Jeff, just recently, after his kids all left the house, Jeff finally sold and moved. But he bought the home I grew up in, which was a big 5-bedroom house with a big basement. And Jeff bought it for my parents when they retired. They just did a cash deal. They just did a deal. My parents retired and left. And Jeff raised his kids in that house. So it's just the memories and our childhood. Zero complaints, man. It was wonderful. It was like having 6 brothers, plus my actual brothers, my 2 big brothers, who were much older, so they were never around a lot. But anyway, so welcome to the family, John Turnbull. You would have fit into our neighborhood just fine, brother. So anyway, so we don't have an owner for Cleveland. So if one of my subscribers out there is a Cleveland fan and they want their name, I will put it in the comments and I will scratch your name in as the head coach of this Cleveland team. And you can join this little 1982 strike shortened. And in a way, it was so perfect that our first encounter with Status Pro was a strike shortened set, right? It was this unicorn, of this weird season. Where all of our teams were pretty good except for Denver. And, my God, Scott's favorite teams. Chicago wasn't great, but Washington was stud. Miami was in the Super Bowl. The Raiders were freaking unbelievable. Dallas was outstanding. Dallas hadn't yet started their post-84, 85 decline. But it was just it was like, what a way for us all to, it's like the perfect season for this group of cats, So here we go. Let's flip a coin. So John, I don't know what John likes, heads or tails, but I know Freddie is a tails never fails, was his always tails never fails. I always call heads. So John, we're gonna have John call tails here. We're gonna have John join Freddie in the tails never fails category, and tails, there it is, John and Freddie. So John, what would John do here with this defense? They give up 2 red zones. Almost identical, except there's more. Chicago picks off a pass here at a higher rate. Chicago's offense, not great. New England's offense, not great. I think New England is going to defer to the second half, and therefore Chicago is going to take the ball. So it'll be Chicago Bears to open, which means New England will kick off. They defer, and I'll put D here as they defer, and they're going to take the ball in the second half, as Chicago is not going to risk losing the ball twice. All right, so here we go. Chicago has no kick return. And Chicago takes the ball with Jim McMahon, Walter Payton, Suey, Moorhead caught touchdowns, Marjoram caught touchdowns, Bashnagel caught touchdowns. So I'm only listing the guys that scored touchdowns. And then I will still handpick what I think imagine-wise happens. I'm using this as my decider die. So 1, 2, 3 is offense. And 5 is red zone. So Chicago moves it down the field on the New England Patriots, who had a pretty good defense. But Chicago with Walter Payton, it's a touchdown pass. So Jim McMahon out of BYU snaps the ball. It's a play action roll. I can see McMahon doing this too. Everybody tackles Walter Payton. And popping out of the crowd comes McMahon running to his right and just flips it into the end zone to Moorhead. TD pass, Moorhead. And folks, that is 100% what happens when you have a Walter Payton. Everybody converges on Walter, and then that play action drop back or play action rollout becomes easy pickings, and they automatically make their kick. So Thomas makes the PAT, and oh man, the New England Patriots on the road at Soldier Field fall behind. Here we go. New England does not have a kick return, so we're going to assume they return it out to about the 24 or something. Snap the ball. It's going to be offense, 7. It's going to be a punt. So New England can't muster anything with Grogan, Collins, Van Egan, a former Raider, Stanley Morgan. Collins also caught touchdown passes, and Topher is the other guy that caught touchdowns from Grogan. So Topher, not very recognizable to me. but I know Grogan, Collins, Van Eegen, Morgan, so they're recognizable. But I don't remember Topher. I don't know if he just was because it was strike shortened season, he got opportunity or what. But all right, Chicago is going to force a punt. They're going to get the ball back. No punt return for Chicago, and they go to work. It's going to be the defense 8 punt. There we go. So New England did have, a matter of fact, I would say that New England had a couple of core things. They had a solid offensive line during this period. They had a athletic quarterback. And the best I can say about Grogan is he was athletic. That's being because he could move. They were determined to run the ball with Collins and guys, and their defense was shaping up to become that 1985 defense. They had Andre Tippett, Nelson. Oh God, I can't remember all the defensive backs. But New England was actually a solid franchise during this period. All right, New England gets the ball, but this is not particularly their best. They were 5-4 though, and they must have done it with interceptions and things because they don't look too hot on offense. 7, they're gonna have to punt again. 7, that's the worst place to have a punt. 7. All right, let's go ahead and see if Chicago automatically gets their next drive. So Chicago gets that final drive of the quarter, and it's going to be defense 8 again. Punt. Good for New England's defense. New England, my God, 2 through 8. They must have been a running team because they only have 2 through 8 on their extra drives. 8, they are going to squeeze in their extra drive in the first quarter, and let's hope they do something with it. 4, fumble. Yeah, they do. They fumble the ball away. And folks, I'm giving that to Grogan, as I can imagine Hampton, McMichael, come rushing in. Mike Singletary, Otis Wilson, one of them comes rushing in, grabs hold of Grogan, ball comes loose, and Mike Singletary falls on the ball, and they fumble the ball away in the quarter. So Chicago opens up this game, drawing first blood in the first drive of the game with McMahon TD pass to Moorhead, and we're on to the second quarter. And Chicago gets the ball back after a fumble. They do not have a fumble return yet. By 1984, 85, 86, there's going to be some fumble returns on Chicago's cards. Offense 8 is going to be a punt, as Walter Payton is stymied by this New England defense. New England takes over, no punt returns. It's going to be the defense 7 punt. I've already played games in this. This was a project I intended to keep completely private. I have a lot of projects that I never share. This was one of those projects I was going to keep completely private. And I said, you know what, I want to play this morning, and I thought I'm gonna share this project. It's meaningless to anyone else out there but me. Maybe some of my old buddies, if they happen to tune in, this might be meaningful to them, but it's as meaningful to me. All right, Chicago gets the ball back. It's going to be defense 9. 9 is picked off. So the New England defense picks it off with Mike Haynes, baby. So McMahon intercepted by Haynes. And Haynes with a chance to take it back to a house on a 4. Oh, no go, but New England gets the ball back. And New England goes to work on a short field, but that defense gives up a red zone trip. Chicago stumbles as Collins and Van Eegen and Grogan run the ball down the field in a short field. Chicago trying to pressure, but they're staying on the ground, eating up clock. And 11, that defense, though, holds and gives up only a field goal to Smith. Wow, all right, Chicago, do they get their extra drive? Oh, wait, they automatically do. Does time run out? It does not. So Chicago will get their final drive of the half. And it's going to be 8, punt. So Chicago has no choice. They have to bear down and punt. Does New England get their second or their last drive of the second? They do not. They absolutely cannot do it. So despite an interception, they only can get a field goal out of that Chicago defense. Folks, at halftime, Soldier Field fans retire to the toilets and to the snack bars, and it is 7-3 as New England has kept this game in reach, which is fascinating. New England came into this game a slight favorite here. Let's see. All right, so New England played their cards right. They won the coin toss. They deferred, and that means they're going to get the ball coming out of the tunnel. So they've got to find a way to get something out of this defense. It's going to be defense 11, turnover on down, so they drive it down into no man's land. They wave Smith off the field on 4th down, and they go for it. They hand it off to Van Eegen, and Singletary, Otis Wilson, and Dan Hampton, Steve McMichael bury him. And that's going to cause a turnover on downs, and the Chicago Bears go to work. And the fans are on their feet. Defense 5, red zone. Oh no, they work Walter Payton and McMahon move them down into the red zone. Can New England force this 8, miss field goal? 6, nope, but they're going to give up a field goal to Thomas. So, Chicago moves it down the field, but has to settle for a field goal. Walter Payton trots off the field, shaking his head at his coach, saying, you know, I should have went right. I should have went right when I went left. And I would have had a first down, coach. It would have kept us going. New England gets the ball after the kickoff. They go on offense, and then fortunately they got a punt. Chicago gets the ball back. Walter Payton and company go to work. They've got a lead, so they're going to be smart with the ball. It's going to be 3. 3 is a picked off. I say that, and then McMahon promptly, on a play action, they fake the handoff to Payton. He drops back deep, feels the pressure of Sims, and flings it high into the air back to Walter Payton, and Steve Nelson picks it off. Intercepted by Nelson. And Nelson, with a return of 4, gets him a touchdown. No. But New England, do they get their drive in this quarter? They do. New England on a short field goes to work. Defense 10 they're still forced to punt. Chicago automatically gets their drive. And they're going to go offense 3. Picked off. McMahon having trouble telling the New England jerseys from the Chicago blue. McMahon intercepted. And again, 4. They're giving New England every chance to score on a 4. No score. Intercepted. This one going to say is, I can't remember their other big defensive back. I'm going to say Haynes. Haynes will just get another one before he ends up traded to the Raiders. Wow, the third quarter comes to an end, and the Chicago Bears muster 3, but 2 third quarter McMahon interceptions, and that was McMahon. He could be a little wild card. You know, he drove Mike Ditka bananas. Of course, he's driving Eric Hewlin bananas in this particular game, as Eric is the coach of this team. John Turnbull now staring at a 10-3 deficit. He needs a touchdown just to make this interesting, and I don't play overtime. So in my pool before playoffs, it ties a tie. All right, so New England starting the quarter, they've got to get something going. John Turnbull's had a rough time scoring in this tournament so far, or I should say this season tournament. 10, damn, turnover on downs. So again, they drive down. That's 2 turnover on downs. Could have been 6 points. They wave off the place kicker in lieu of going for it, and this defense, it won't budge. Chicago gets the ball. Defense 5, red zone. Oh no, New England allows Walter Payton to get it into range. And then Walter Payton and company are left with a field goal from Thomas. Well, you got to give New England credit, man. It's been bend but don't break. They've let them in there, but they've held them to field goals. New England looking at the defense. Red zone. Okay, Grogan gets them down there with a bomb to Morgan. And it's going to be 8. 8 is missed field goal. You're kidding me. Smith lines up. Missed field goal for Smith. The fans here in Chicago erupt when Smith misses a chip shot field goal after Grogan throws them into the red zone. And Chicago takes over. Unbelievable. Chicago is going to be defense 8 is a punt. New England, do they get their final drive? They do. Does time expire? It does. So no New England. Chicago automatically gets the drive, but time does not expire. So somehow, some way, Chicago with another possession. 6. Red zone. Chicago trying to run it up. Walter Payton's going to get the ball. No. Held. They line up for the kick, and Thomas, snap, hold, wide right. Thomas misses a field goal in the waning moments of the game. However, he did get another field goal in this quarter, and look, New England is going to lose this game 3-13. New England and John Turnbull can't muster any offense. New England lost their first game to Cleveland 20-7. The Bears were up 14-3 on the Redskins, and Big Brother Scott came back and won 20-14, beating Chicago in the first game with Washington, and Chicago will now be 1-1. Turnbull and his Patriots, on the fact that they cannot muster any points, falls to 0-2. They have scored 10 points in 2 games have the New England Patriots rough going. And the Chicago Bears are literally averaging 13.5 points a game. That's going to beat the Broncos and the Patriots in this season, as the Broncos have only scored 7 points each game. So New England has a chance to beat the Broncos, and the Bears will be able to beat at least those 2 teams, maybe. The Raiders right now have 1 game under the belt. They won over Denver 45-7. Miami choked against Ronnie. Jeff and Miami lost to Ronnie and the Cowboys 27-14 in week 1. So you get an idea of where we're at here, as the Broncos are 0-2, having lost to Cleveland, uncoached Cleveland 27-7. Cleveland beat New England 20-7. Chicago had a comeback. I should say the Redskins had a comeback second half victory over the Bears. So big brother beat little brother. I defeated Freddie 45-7 as the Raiders, but the Broncos just not good. And Dallas somehow, some way, held the Dolphins off as the Dolphins tried a second half comeback bid. But the Cowboys had scored 10, had shut out the Dolphins in the first half. And the Cowboys, when we played Status Pro, and again, I can't venture a guess as to how many hours and how many games of Status Pro we played, but second only to Pay Dirt and Title Bout in my life, because we played an entire season of Pay Dirt in one summer. I actually replayed the entire '83 season over in Pay Dirt one summer, 278 games or something like that. But we were close in Status Pro football, a lot of games. The point is, the only other team that would give me a run as far as talent was Ron's Dallas Cowboys. So our Raider Dallas games were crazy, amazing. Freddie, bless his heart, would play his Broncos, but just could never muster much. Jeff, considering the Dolphins had the number one AFC defense scoring wise and were in the Super Bowl, Jeff was always frustrated. The Dolphins didn't have they weren't an easy team to coach. They had what they needed, but he had to actually kind of pick. It's almost like a puzzle. He had to put a puzzle together, every game, especially against the Raider defense and the Washington defense and the Dallas defense. But coaching the Raiders was easy, man. Marcus Allen, Todd Christensen, Barnwell, and Barksdale. And of course, Jim Plunkett was fantastic. So, and then on defense, my God, the Raiders were 8-1. So, but Marcus Allen and Frank Hawkins and Kenny King. And so my point is, Jeff's frustration was, as good as the Dolphins were, he really needed to hit everything just right. And that defense, he had to kind of finagle into making them able to handle a +3 guard, or getting good blocking from his O-line on a running play to defeat Howie Long and Alzado and Kinlaw and Barney Chavis and Reuben Carter and, Randy White and Too Tall Jones. So the Dolphins just didn't have the horses running the game, on the front line to help Andre Franklin. So it was just amazing. So, and their averages weren't great. And Riggins was the same way, right? Riggins was one of the top backs in the league, but Riggins had a poor average. So Riggins needed help from the Hogs. Well, fortunately, the Redskins had the Hogs. He had a +3 line across the board. Walter Payton was Walter Payton. We didn't play a whole lot of the '82 Bears, but we played a ton of the 85 Bears. So anyway, long story short, we played '82 a lot, and then we played '84. I would say the next most. We got the '83 season, but for some reason, it's like we played so much '82, we just jumped to '84. And the reason for that was, Jeff's favorite team, Dan Marino, was record-setting, and the 49ers were amazing in that set, and oh my God, Eric Dickerson. So that set, we played more. I played the Rams, and I played the 49ers quite a bit, because they were the only 2 teams that really could rival the Dolphins. And then my Raiders were good. But and of course the Denver Broncos were 13-3 in '84. So 84 was really the best set for us, because all of our teams were on the top. They were all playoff teams: Dallas, Miami, Washington, the Raiders, so they were all playoff teams. Denver won the division. So 84 turned out to be a better set for all of our favorite teams, but we just, when we got 82, that was it. It was unbelievable. And I still have my most fond memories. Again, I've said it before, my sentimental favorite season of all time is the 1982 NFL season. I was watching a ton of it, and I was playing a ton of Status Pro. So obviously, it's sentimental for those reasons. But anyway, I wanted to share this project. Again, I have a lot of projects I never put on the channel. I don't share because they're not conducive to play-by-play, or they're not projects I would assume people are remotely interested in, like this. I don't think anybody cares about this but me, but I thought I would share it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.